TheAngryHoneyBadger.
Hey everyone, it is TheAngryHoneyBadger here, and today we're going to take a look at a build video for Zac in the jungle. Now I know that Season 5 is actually not too far away, and that is going to mean that there will be a handful of changes in the jungle. So if you think this gets outdated fairly quick, part of that will be kind of true, but the main thing is the one jungler item per se will be different. So we'll make note of that in a second. But before that, right as we go to start our red buff and check that bush, Lee Sin comes pouncing out of it. I don't know why you'd technically invade a Zac. It seems like an absolutely terrible idea with his passive. We'll talk about that in just a second, but like, doesn't make any sense. So he's gonna stay here and act like he can bully me out, but now he's taunting me and I've immediately had my top laner respond to the situation. So, and now my mid lane's showing up too. So he's now just getting completely caught out. One thing he does get out of this exchange is the fact that we all flash, which I will say is a lot of flashes, but he gives a blue buff over to a top lane Rise. That is so not worth it. It's not even like this. Oh, against a Trendemir, like look later at Rise's score. Rise easily wins his, well, he loses towers a lot, but whatever. He gets tons of kills and he gets legitimately fed. So don't invade Zac is what I'd say if you're playing against Zac, unless the enemy team is super derp. So yeah, that was a really interesting call by him. But we're going to go ahead and play Zac, talk about him. We're going to talk about his abilities, because that much in Season 5 will not change. Those will remain the same, and they will work the same. Unless they redo Zac for some crazy reason. But for now, that will remain the same. We're going to also talk about the items you're going to want to purchase on Zac and which directions you can go with that in your build. Maybe a little bit on those runes and masteries. A little bit of pros and cons. We're just going to talk about what you want to do with Zac, which honestly can be summarized in about half a sentence. You don't even need a full sentence to say what you want Zac to do. But we'll start off with his passive. We're going to cover his abilities first. With the passive, that is your cell division. Each time Zac hits an ability or uses an ability, a chunk of himself will be knocked off or whatever, and then you can reabsorb it for 4% of your maximum health, meaning you basically start healing yourself with this as the game goes on. And that's pretty nice. And then also, the other part of his passive is when you take fatal damage, you split into 4 chunks, and they try to recombine. Depending on how many of the chunks survive, depends on how much life you get when you return to life. Yeah, so that's the gist of it, which is why you can't kill him and invade him at level 1. We picked up an assist in the bot lane. Leona picked the kill up on the AD Lulu, which, by the way, is kind of terrifying. AD Lulu top, crazy strong. I'm not saying to try it out, but it is crazy. Maybe I'll do something with that coming up. So that is your cell division. Now, I max out my abilities wrong in game. Pay no attention to what I did. I was trying something. It was stupid, and I wasn't thinking. So don't listen to me in the video there. Listen to what I say now. So we're going to max out your E ability, which is your Elastic Slingshot first. Then you're going to max out your W second, and then your Stretching Strike, which is your Q last. But at level 1, you put a point into your Unstable Matter, which is everything that deals magic damage on Zac. But what happens is those little body erupts, and you deal damage plus percentage damage, which is really good on him late game. It actually keeps him super viable, and you can walk on the chunks and obviously pick them up and get your health back. So we are going to put a point in that first. We're going to go ahead and gank mid. Actually, pretty close. Annie almost died, but Annie actually does a lot of good work later on, and we'll talk about that as the game continues. But your Unstable Matter is what you put a point into at level 1. At level 2, you're going to put a point into your Stretching Strike, and then you'll max it out last. When you punch, it will hit enemies, deal damage to them, and it will slow them by a percentage for 2 seconds. That's your Stretching Strike. Obviously, if you're in top lane, you max that out first. But we're not in top, we're in the jungle. And then at level 3, you put a point into your Elastic Slingshot, which is what slingshots you really across after you charge it up. If you charge it up the full duration, you go further. If you don't, you don't go as far. It does deal magic damage. Once it hits a target at location, it will knock them back for 0.5 seconds. It can be canceled by moving, refunding 50% of the health cost, and having its cooldown time. One of the big reasons you do max this out first while you are jungling is because of the 2 things it brings to the table, besides more damage. The cooldown on it will be reduced drastically, and the range on it is increased as you put points into it. So that is why you want to max it in the jungle, because it's all about that gank pressure. Get into another fight. Annie lives, barely, but then her catalyst kicks off and she can come save the day as I get kicked in the face and eat minions. But luckily Tibbers is here to help too, and Tibbers is just doing work. Do not underestimate how much damage Tibbers does. Annie will pick up another kill because of it, which is fantastic, and I get to live. So good work, Annie, and I guess I tanked things, so that's helpful. And yeah. Next then, finally, is your ultimate. That is your Let's Bounce. Zac leaps into the air and removes all slows affecting him. He then bounces around. He hits people in the face. He has 4 bounces maximum, and they'll deal that damage to everybody. If it hits somebody, it will also knock them up for 1 second, and then it will slow them by 20% for 1 second. You can activate your W ability, which is that unstable matter, while you are bouncing around. So you can get extra damage off while you're doing damage. So pretty helpful, really, pretty handy. Hey, look, Rise is 5 and 1. Don't feed him a blue buff at level 1. Yeah, so those are your abilities as Zac. Now, what his kit really brings to the table, as we've spoken about, is the fact that you can gank quite well with it, actually from really interesting areas. You have a lot of range on that E ability, so you can kind of come ganking out of weird places, especially if the enemy team is pushed up far into your lanes. You can come out of just your jungle really easily and be on top of them, kind of like surprise fiddlesticks ults. So ganking's really what he's good with and good at, and the other thing he is great with is the fact that he brings tons of crowd control with his ganks, and he brings them into team fights as the game continues too. So, I mean, he's got a slow on his Q, pretty good, pretty handy, helpful. He's got percentage damage, which then continues to make him a little bit more viable as the game continues onward into the late game. Some tanks really can't boast percentage damage, which becomes more difficult to deal any type of damage. And as much as they do things to the enemy team, it just doesn't bring enough with the team to the point where the enemies even have to care about him. So that's one thing just to take note of, that Zac really does bring to the table, is percentage damage. And that's always a good thing. Then, obviously, he's got that insane range on the Elastic Slingshot, and it's more crowd control by knocking people back for 0.5 seconds. And then he's got the ultimate, which then there's more seconds involved of knocking people up and slowing them. So, knock up, slowed, jumped on them, slowed. And then potentially with the items we're building, which I'll start to talk about, you're just a crowd control machine. So, that's just a great combination of abilities. So it's kind of the reason why they had to nerf him a couple times, because he was way too tanky for how much crowd control he had. And so they nerfed a little bit of both to really just kind of bring him back down. So I think we died once in this game. Like, I'm pretty sure the death we have now is the only death we'll have, because we just don't die, because our passive also prevents us from dying. But let's go ahead and talk more about the build. So, Season 5 changes will bring in probably new items unless they revert something. But typically you're going to want to buy whatever the tanky jungle item is for Zac if you're going to be jungling him in Season 5. So, as much as that might mean that goodbye Spirit of the Ancient Golem and it's called something different, but it's a tanky one, for now it's the Ancient Golem, but in the future it's whatever that item will most likely be. And then we obviously have picked up the first part of our boots with Boots of Speed, because we want Boots of Speed early. We have just now finished them off into Ninja Tabi because their team is pretty AD heavy. That's an AD Lulu. She will actually deal an okay amount of AP damage as well, but we really don't need to worry about it. And then what? Ooh, we're going to pick up actually a kill there on Tryndamere. Nothing crazy going on, just him being too overextended. But what we're doing against this team is we're prioritizing one item a little bit because it's very helpful for the kit, and then we're going to mostly build just armor, which against most teams that's actually going to work, because as you're in the front line you'll mostly absorb that physical damage. So we are building those Ninja Tabis because of their team composition. If they had tons and tons and tons and tons of crowd control and they had more AP, we would probably just pick up the Merc Treads. You can also pick up Sork Shoes on him, really. Those also work quite well because he's got percentage damage, so you can just kind of go through more of their magic resist. It can kind of help you out. And then the two items we're actually working on simultaneously are the first two items you're probably want to get every build. That is your Spirit Visage, and it is your Randuin's Omen. We picked up the armor in the Omen with the Warden's Mail. Very helpful. And then we've also picked up the Spirit Visage early because it will help us with our passive because what the Visage obviously has with its unique passive is it increases your healing and your regeneration on yourself by 20%. So each time we pick up one of those blobs, we're getting even more health back. So we become even more sustainy, not a real word, but I'm going with it, when we keep picking up our blobs, making us an uber tank. This is really an item that kind of fits perfectly with Zac, and it's another item that fits perfectly like with Mundo and any of these champions that get health back or are trying to absorb lots of health. So we get a lot back each time we pick up one of those blobs. As you just watch the game, you see those plus, you know, 1 blah 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 or 200 blah 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 as the game continues. So just keep an eye on that and just see how much we get from that now that we have that Visage completed. So we're gonna pick that one up, 146 health, pretty good. That's a lot of health to pick up. So we're gonna keep chasing. We did flash. We're gonna use bouncy time, as he says. We're gonna slow them down. We're gonna slow them again with a punch, with that stretch and strike. And they're not going anywhere. With the other crowd control on our team, Leona and Annie and Ryze, like, the enemy team isn't going anywhere. This is actually a pretty good composition. Probably could use a little bit more AD, but Draven's fine. Draven's gonna handle things. But yeah, we're good. So, yeah, we picked up the Visage. We also picked up the Giant's Belt. We're almost done with the Omen. The Omen also has another slow on it with its activatable slow, let alone you're gonna be slowing down attack speed on enemies who attack you, so it's all about slow. Zac's just a big blob in slow motion. That's what we want. So the Omen is what we will finish next trip back to base. And between the Omen, Visage, Ancient Golem, and our boots, I mean, that's not full build, obviously, but that's pretty much a solid 4 core, if that's how you want to say that. Now, if you want to talk to your support on items and what they're trying to prioritize in their build, if they don't do a Locket, depending on the support and jungler, Locket of the Iron Solari is going to be fantastic. Against this enemy team per se, don't really need it, because I don't need any more magic resist against them. The little bit I'm going to take from Alistar and Lulu is, I mean, the Visage handles that just fine. So we'll continue to build more armor as the game goes on. So, but Locket of the Iron Solari would be a fantastic purchase for your team. Especially as you'll be in the middle of the fight, and everybody else will benefit from it, and you probably won't die. So they'll all be able to benefit from it for a long period of time. Now let's go ahead and throw up that Masteries page. No surprise, it's really tanky. If you need to pause the video on it right now, it's just really tanky. There was an absolutely terrible jump by me. I'm glad that made it into the video. We're going to go ahead and bounce around, knock people up, slow them down. Lulu's going to get under attack because that's technically their carry. She's going to flash out. Ryze is just going to go do work as we deal with the Alistar. And yeah, just so much crowd control on the team, and all the health we just picked back up after picking our Goobin blobs up. Fantastic, really. So, pros and cons. Not the strongest champion early. Not terrible, but not the strongest. You wouldn't really 1v1 anyone with him in the jungle building full tank. Kind of difficult. And then his pros are just the fact that he brings so much crowd control. We've covered it, but that's Zac. Tons of crowd control, very tanky, and even when you think you've killed him, you may not have killed him. Now, the build can go a few directions at this point. Another team fight, obviously, needs to happen. Good stun by Annie. That's a super dead Yasuo. And so yeah, let's talk about the build and direction. So if you want to really bring some more, if you're like really not dying, you're not worried about really tanking out, we have tons of tanks on this team. If you want to go for some damage, I'm going to actually build a Haunting Guise next. We're not going to get to it, but a Haunting Guise built into a Liandry's. That's some good damage, and because of his CC, it procs its passive even better, and that's a good item on Zac for 1 damage item. We go with Liandry's Torment. Other items that you could pick up, obviously, Warmogs. Get big, get tanky, get even more health coming into you. And a Guardian Angel, obviously, you can pick that up. Anything tanky is good on Zac. That's just how that works. Everything, though, you need to know about this build, for those runes as well, I didn't talk about them out loud, but they are in the description, so you can head down there and check that out. Obviously, if you have any questions, put them down below in the comments, and I'll just see all of you guys in the next build video. It is time for another champion build and guide. We're going to be playing as Syndra in the mid lane. I actually am a big fan of Syndra. I think she's a great champion. She's super fun to play. It's pretty rewarding, really. So we're going to be looking at her today.